Welcome back to my channel, guys. So today I'm going to be doing my final Neo Geo Mini video, my final verdict. Finally got my hands on the Neo Geo Mini pads. I've had them for a little while now, testing them out and whatnot. But I just want to kind of do a quick overview of these devices, both the Asian release and the international version. The international version is the one that we would get in the US or the UK. So that's the one on the right, the purplish black box, and then the black one's the Asian release. Essentially the same device, but surprisingly, there are some glaring differences. And it's not just because there's different games. We already knew that. But there's some things I've noticed, and we're going to kind of take a look at that in a moment. Kind of a little odd, but it is what it is. We'll showcase that in a few minutes here, but here's the two units side by side. As you see, overall, essentially they're the same, but there's some differences with the mold. The actual stick, the front part where the arcade stick is for the US or international version is molded a little differently. The sticks, the buttons, they're all the same. There's not any difference between those. On the Japanese or Asian release one, let me try to focus here. There's a power indicator light on the front of the screen, like on the bottom right there, as you can see. And then on the international version, the light is a ring around the stick, and I think it's actually pretty neat. I actually prefer it that way. I thought that was a pretty cool little touch. So with these controllers, the little Neo Geo mini pads, they actually feel pretty good to me, but these are some of the biggest complaints that people have, is that there's no micro switches. It's not easy to make micro switches, I guess, for these controllers, supposedly. But they are just straight analog, and that bothers some people. Myself, I'm a huge Neo Geo fan, and looking at the original controller here, yeah, it's clicky, it feels great. Both controllers feel about the same as far as weight goes and feel in your hand. It's just that analog stick's quite a bit different, you know, having an analog versus micro switches. The buttons feel similar. Everything's pretty good there. But surprisingly for me, this analog stick, it actually grew on me a little bit. And surprisingly, I kind of like it. It's not bad. On both of my units here, I do have screen protectors, which I'm pointing out. The US version, I have these tempered glass screen protectors. The other one, I have like a anti-glare, just normal screen protector. Both of them imported from Japan. I couldn't get the original ones, but I actually kind of like the plastic one better than the tempered glass. The tempered glass one is kind of a pain to get on there. As you see, I'm going to go ahead and plug in these controllers. You know, it can feel like a little snug fit, which is fine. You get them in there, you just got to be careful. And always with devices like this, I have my little anchor, whatever the heck you want to call it, these portable power supplies. I have a bunch of these. They are amazing. They are in my Amazon recommended products if you want to peep that out. The back of the units, both of them the same. We got an HDMI port, a little 3.5 millimeter audio jack, and the power button. Just between the two units, just different colors. The base on the US or international version is white, where the Japanese one is red. So it's just going to kind of depend on which color preference you have, because there's really some deep pros and cons to getting both. And I think the biggest thing for some people is going to be the game list. Really, you know, I'm hoping this thing gets hacked. That's one of the biggest concerns out there. Get this thing hacked so we can add all the games we want. As I'm showing here, if you have a controller plugged in, the controller on the unit does not work for player one any longer, as long as you have the controller plugged in on the player one side. So just keep that in mind. I really don't like using these sticks on the unit itself. After I got these controllers, it just really opened up this product for me, and I've really been enjoying it quite a bit more than I initially did. So we're just kind of scrolling through the games. The game list is kind of, it's different. There's different games on both, but there's going to be some similarities between the two, obviously. They kind of mixed up the way the ordering is, and as you can see between the two units, the user interface is definitely a little different. You know, they both still are reminiscent of like the NES Classic, that kind of thing. But with the Japanese version, you have all the options up top, the actual image size for the box art or the the game marquee type thing is a little bit bigger than it is on the US version, even though it still occupies about the same space. It's just they had that white border around it, and it's just slightly smaller, but not a big deal. They both look good to me. Now, this is where things get kind of interesting, and it's kind of hard to showcase this off camera like this, but I'm sure you can immediately notice something between the two units. And this is not angle. It's not because one is angled differently than the other. It's that's not the case. What's going on here, and I can see it in my camera, is the colors are a little different between the two. The brightness, the one's darker than the other. The Asian release is quite a bit darker than the US version, and it makes the colors look more saturated. I'm not sure why that is, because in some screens you'll look at it and you'll be like, the US version looks better, like here in the select screen, and partially that's a little bit due to angle, but it's not that much exaggerated. And then in game you might be like, well, it looks better in the Asian release, and it's definitely an odd thing, to say the least, that they don't share the same settings as far as how the colors come through. How, I don't know what that is. It's kind of strange to me. Do I have a preference between the two? In all honesty, playing it on the unit itself, just sitting here playing it without it being on the TV, I prefer the US version. But then there's a downside to that. As you may have seen in that previous gameplay footage, is that we're getting the actual US version of the ROMs, and there's no unibios, there's no different kind of selection here where you can mess with these things, but we have no blood is going to be the biggest gripe for a lot of people. That's how I had originally experienced most of these games in the arcades. So for me, it doesn't bother me as much as it may bother others, but it definitely is kind of a disappointing thing there, because Metal Slug, we're going to get that sweat, that white milky looking blood. Samurai Showdown, we're going to get the green blood versus the red and the Japanese release. So it's just kind of aesthetically, it's going to be a concern for some. Yeah, the Asian release, you can change the menu to English so you can actually read what the games are, but the games won't play in English unless you select that option if the game supports it. There are some games that have an English option built into it, so you can change it to English, but overall, it's just really going to depend on what your preference is. Most of these games you don't really need to read anyway, but it's striking to me that the visual quality, there's such a gap here as far as what they did with the colors and the brightness. And like I said, between the two, it's kind of hard to say which one looks better. But for me, just sitting here playing, and I've played these things for hours. I've played them for hours with the controllers attached, just chilling, playing it. And I do prefer the US version. It has a handful more games that I wanted. And I can deal with the green and white blood for the most part. Like I said, it doesn't really bother me. But really, side by side, looking at these two, the darkness is just odd. But besides that, I don't want to go on and on about that, but that's the biggest issue I've seen between the two versions anyway. Now, I'm a sucker for these kind of things. I am super happy that I own these. They are expensive. I've been pretty critical as far as the price point and the lackluster inclusion of things that you actually need to play this device. No HDMI cord included, and you do need that mini HDMI. It doesn't use the normal size HDMI. No controller included. No way to power it. You do get the USB-C cable that you need to plug into some kind of external source, but the device does not have a battery, and it does not come with a brick. I'm usually fine with that. I'm just a little disappointed there's no built-in battery with this thing, with how it's designed to be a portable thing. I actually really love playing this thing in tabletop mode with the controllers. Playing it on TV just really looks bad, and I'm going to throw up a comparison of that between the two systems. And just looking at these games on a TV, the blurriness just really bothers me. It's, you know, they got this filtering going on. It just really looks like crap on your TV. So would I recommend you buying this product? For me, I love it. But at the same time, I realize how much I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff, and I love these mini consoles, and I really do love these units. But for me, at the same time, I realize the price point, not coming with what you need to actually play it for the most part, is gonna be a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. So no, I can't recommend it for just a casual consumer or even the hardcore guys. I would recommend it if you're like me and you're just a sucker for this kind of stuff and you get enjoyment out of these mini consoles. They play well. I actually really like the controller. I can do the moves with the games. I can play it just fine. Yeah, I do miss that clickiness of having those micro switches in the controller, but I've gotten over that pretty quick, to be honest with you. A lot of people want to knock the controller, and I definitely agree with the criticisms out there, but I still think it's a damn quality controller for what you're getting. 25 bucks, I'm fine with that. I'm digging it. Really happy. If you are interested in either version of this device, I'll have links in the description. Like I said, it's hard for me to say, hey, buy this, buy this, buy this, but I just wanted to share with you guys my final verdict on this device. I'm loving it. You may love it, you may not. But hey, I do appreciate you guys spending some time with me, checking out my video. And with that said, guys, I do appreciate it. Smash that like button. Make sweet love to that notification bell. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I will catch y'all next time. Peace out, bye-bye, and boom!